Hello, welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Caw. I'm delighted, tickled pink, to be joined by Record Sports Keith Jackson, but more importantly, all the way from McDermott Park, Andy Newport. Guys, how's it going?
Not bad. Well, actually, I'll tell you a lie, but I'll tell you a bit later. Andy's in a rush.
Andy,
boys.
You're there, obviously, in the wake of St Johnstone Rangers 1. Look, I'm not saying it was a boring game, Andy, but I did want to bleach my eyes after full time. I mean, how was it for you?
Not quite the performance we saw on Thursday night, but then again, nobody was really surprised by that. This Rangers team of, how do we say, dual personalities, rampant in Europe, rampant in the Riviera, pedestrian in Perth, but here we are. This is just what the Rangers supporter say. Sorry, they didn't send them watch report, mate. You don't need
I knew it was. I could tell that. That's been going.
Aye, crafted on the way up the A9, but there we go. It's what the Rangers support have come to get used to this team, it seems.
Igaman was one that I think a lot of Rangers fans were looking, excited to see today. Thought maybe Thursday would be his kind of launching pad. It didn't really happen for him today, did it?
No, but listen, I mean, he was sort of starved of service. The little service he got was sort of edge of the box. Made a good sort of turning shot in the first half from a corner barn pass, but there wasn't much into his feet, into areas that he could exploit. And to be honest, I think, listen, I put the question to John Suter before the game on Thursday night, is this team sort of better suited to playing in Europe? And Philippe Clement sort of interjected and said he didn't think that was the case. He rejected that notion, but it's becoming harder to sort of disagree with that sort of thing because, I mean, you see when this team's get spaces to plenty, they're quite effective. Four goals in France, as bad as Nice were, and they certainly were on Thursday night. To score 4 goals away from home in Europe's always an impressive feat. But St Johnstone were disciplined today. They sat in, they made life difficult, attacked when they could. They obviously played with 2 up front, which caused a couple of issues with balls in behind at times in the first half. But this is a Rangers team that, even with Hadji being in there today, and I thought he was good, lively, they're still well short when it comes to that incisiveness. But what I will say about Igamani, it's a bit like with Danilo when he plays. Okay, Danilo isn't maybe the sharpest striker, and Igamani didn't, he wasn't doing much for himself, but it just makes such a big difference to Rangers' build-up play in terms of them just keeping hold of the ball in a way that Cyril Dessers never seems quite comfortable doing. So listen, he's young, he's only 22. I think this is his 12th appearance, his fourth start. He'll get there if he carries on, but he needs game time, and I think this is what there's been times where Philippe Clement has stuck him in, given him a start. He's maybe not done much, and then you've not seen him again for 3 or 4 weeks. So I think, listen, the Rangers support have seen all they're going to see from Cyril Dessers. There's nothing left to learn about him. I think, for Philippe Clement's sake, it'd be better just sticking with Igamani and going, this is one for the future. And if he's serious about this being a young team that's going to grow and show potential, then he needs to give that potential time to flourish. So I would think he should be thinking about starting Igamani against Kilmarnock on Wednesday at Ibrox.
Does it not feel, Andy, to you as if he's just throwing muck at the wall now and seeing what sticks? There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to decision making. If something works one week, he sticks by it. Drowning man syndrome, we've talked about it before. You cling on to what you think might work, but there's no real rationale. You've ended up, last weekend, the midfield 3 at Diamonde with Raskin and Conor Barron, quite patently not properly structured for the domestic scene when you're up against what they call low blocks. Mm-hmm. But it worked in Europe, so he stuck with it. And I'm now getting this feeling about Igamani as well, that he's taking Dessers out the firing line, probably the right thing to do. It worked for him in Nice, and so he just went again today with that. Mind you, what's your options? Go with Cyril Dessers?
I think that is it. I mean, because what is the options? Because, like, for example, you say Diamande, he was dreadful against Dundee United, but he plays him against Nice and he gets a result and gets a really good performance out of him. Obviously today they want to go Hadji because Hadji played well against Dundee United and eligible through the week, so plays well, but there's still he makes his changes, but nothing really seems to change the flow of the game. He gets 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there. He said nothing that's been able to allow him to say, right, I'm going to stick by this consistently, because as you say, with Igamani comes in and he's back out, and it's back to Dessers, and I say you're just seeing the same thing every week from Dessers. Sometimes he'll be good. On the whole, he'll be pretty frustrating, a frustrating watch. You know, at the end of the day, a bit of patience, I think, is required. You know, we've been saying that all season. This is a Rangers team that's in transition. There's going to be moments where it's going to be so bad, frankly. There's guys there that are learning their trade at this level. They've never played at this level. They've never dealt with the pressure that comes with playing for a club this size. So, you know, for better or worse, Rangers are just going to have to stick by it and hope that something shows signs of clicking. Not for this season, probably. I think we're all the opinion that 11 points is far too much. I mean, it seemed like last season 8 points was too much for them to claw back. They did, and then they threw it away. This season, I just can't see them getting anywhere close to a Celtic team that are absolutely rampant. So I think they just need to start thinking for the future, give some guys a chance, just to bed themselves in, and then think about next season.
And just before
to compound matters, Andy, I think after the game there was some injury news, wasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, we'll just talk about one for the future. I mean, obviously, Nana Casemiro was somebody that they'd obviously brought in on loan this season. Had an option to buy him in the summer. Obviously got injured on Dutch under-21 duty. Well, it's just been confirmed by Philippe Clement in the press conference that he's going to be out for 4 to 6 months, which is a devastating blow for the young kid. He's away back to Feyenoord to complete his rehab, but really it's the last thing Rangers need right now. I mean, they're coping with so many injuries as it is. You've got Tom Lawrence out, you've got Rabbi Matondo out, you've got a couple others. So I mean, just having this guy out who had shown in glimpses that he could be a real prospect for the summer, for the future, to have him out for potentially the rest of the season is such a cruel blow for both him and his team.
Andy, I know you need to crack on. We really appreciate having you on the Hotline Live. Thanks very much for joining us from McDermott Park, and safe travels up the road and all that.
Cheers, boys. I'll speak to you later on.
Cheers, Andy. Andy Newport there at McDermott Park. Right, I'm going to read out a few comments, Keith, that we've had sent in, because despite winning 1-0 today, it might not shock you, the Rangers fans aren't exactly over the moon. Rob Jones, Clement's tactics are like grilling steak in a toaster, clueless, messy and doomed. Scraping past St Johnstone with a fluke on goal. That's comedy, not football. Rangers deserve better and Clement must go. Drew McMaster, utterly disgraceful. Any Rangers fan hopeful after Nice must be disgusted. Scraping past St Johnstone with a fluke on goal is a joke. Clement is hopeless. And this one from Rangers Easy OK watching live on YouTube. Actually think we were all right in the first half, just lacked the final ball. Second half, so laboured, we don't score enough goals. Robin Proper has now been subbed off 4 times, injured. Share the minutes between Igaman and Danilo, and then try punt Dessers in January. I will take Shankland at a cut price now. Interesting.
Well, listen, you can't expect the Rangers fans to sit and watch that and then pretend that they're satisfied by it. I very interested in watching the performance in Nice. Nobody saw that result coming. But was it a brilliant Rangers performance? I'm not sure that it was. I think Nice were awful. And the longer the game went on, Rangers did grow into it. And it is a fantastic result. And it is, as Andy said, it's no mean feat to get 4 goals in your travels in any European competition at any level, let alone against a big side from Ligue 1. So, taken in isolation, brilliant result. Iffy performance for much of it. Came on strong. It's a fantastic result in terms of the Europa League and their chances of progressing in the tournament. It didn't convince me as a performance, and I was not in the slightest bit surprised. I don't think any Rangers fan out there would have been in the slightest surprised to see more of the same against St Johnstone today. They're stuck in a rut. And Philippe Clement shows no sign to me that he knows what he's trying to achieve in terms of pulling them out of it. And then if the guy in charge really doesn't have a plan, then what hope have you got? It seems to me that Rangers are just now in a holding pattern now, a sort of death spiral in terms of Clement's career, where they've kind of locked into, right, okay, they've got Celtic at hand in the League Cup final, 15th of December, 2 weeks today, and they'll need to pick up the pieces after that. The Rangers fans, you can feel it. They anticipate a really horrible afternoon at National Stadium. And if that's what they get, then I'm afraid, I think the new chief executive starts his first day in the job is the following day after that defeat. Well, I think I know what his first task is going to have to be.
Well, look, there's
come on, Daniel. There's just no way out of it.
No.
And I say that not because it would be hopeless for any manager, but it's a hopeless situation when the guy in charge doesn't seem to know or have any real rhyme or rhythm to his decision making. As I said, he's throwing muck at the walls, seeing what sticks. There's nothing about Rangers that feels organised, structured. We've talked about it for a long time. There's no identity to their style of play. They're nothing right now. And it does feel as if people are just kind of sitting, humming and hawing, waiting for the inevitable to happen. And I think the key date for that is, as I said, the 15th of December.
Do you know where I think, Keith, Rangers are really lacking at the minute? And I might get some stick for this. But see, right in the middle of the park, like Connor Barron, he's had a really good season. He's came in, looks like a Rangers player. Raskin is a tidy player. But I was watching Celtic yesterday, right? And I'm not saying, I know Celtic are streets ahead at the minute. But McCowan comes in, scores. I mean, McGregor running the show again. I feel like they lack so much personality right in the centre midfield. Rangers today, I was crying out for someone to take the game by the scruff of the neck. And again, it's not really a criticism of Barron and Raskin. It's just that a club like Rangers should have someone in there. I keep coming back to it with more personality, more drive.
I think there's a heavy weight on young Connor Barron's shoulders right now, and I think he's actually been managing it quite manfully, because he is the one guy that's standing up and he's there to be counted, and there's no, you can't look at his performance level or his energy levels and think this guy's swinging the lead in there. He's not. I think he's been really, really good, but I think it is sort of a indictment on Rangers that a young kid with very little experience is having to carry such a load in the middle of the park. I think you're absolutely right, but that's something that's not been properly addressed. Listen, they've had guys, put it this way, right? You're looking at that team today. It was only a few weeks ago that Hadji was being told, you'll never be good enough to be the Rangers number 10, right? So he's now the go-to man in terms of creativity. He's the guy that gets the assist and he gets come on out of a potentially sticky situation. In a game which they were the better team, they should have won it. But in terms of creative spark, Hadji was the main guy. Raskin, he looked as if he was on the way out when under Clement, for whatever reason, couldn't get anywhere near the team for months. Yeah. He's now emerged as a key player. That, again, kind of speaks to the lack of joined-up thinking and the sort of flying by the seat of your pants, changing things from 1 minute to the next. There's no managerial sort of blueprint being laid down. The other side of the city, I'm going to be writing about this in my column for tomorrow, it's completely opposite. You've got Brendan Rodgers there. He's now playing like chess. He's 5 moves ahead. He's worked out. He shouted and screamed to get improved quality of players into the transfer window for this exact reason, for this exact moment, so that he can go and make 6 changes from a Champions League side. And the team, if anything, gets better. The energy goes up. Guys are desperate to prove themselves. 4 of the 6 guys that he brings into the team get a goal in the first half. I mean, this is exactly what Brendan Rodgers wanted to create. He's completely in control of the situation. And across the city, you've got a guy that's the exact opposite. He's kind of, he's surviving on a week-to-week basis. And he doesn't have the luxury of forward planning the way that Brendan Rodgers does. But that's because Brendan Rodgers got his ducks in a row. And Clement has shown no signs of being capable of doing that. It's over a year now. This isn't a guy new in the job, still finding his feet. There should be something about Clement's Rangers that's identifiable. There's nothing other than the fact that they continually underperform. And
they've went. It's not. Scott McDermott on this show the other night said, "Look, this isn't a rebuild that he keeps mentioning. It's a downgrade." And I think that is fair. But just to finish on Rangers, Keith, they now have Kilmarnock at home on Wednesday, then Ross County away this time next week before they play Tottenham, Celtic in that cup final. I mean, last week there was real clamour, rumours on social media he was going to be sacked. Do we accept now he's definitely there until at least the cup final, barring...
I think Rangers have locked themselves into that, Daniel. Yeah. If they were going to make a change, And everybody knows that change is going to have to be made at some point. But the time to make the change would have been during the international break. So the very fact that he didn't do that, Clement staggers on from game to game. But that's no way to be running a football club. I also think as well, the fact that, they are getting their appointments sorted out in the boardroom. I think that alleviates the pressure from a caretaker chairman and John Gilligan, who probably didn't want to be the man with blood in his hands, the executioner, if you like, knowing that he'd need to find a replacement, knowing that he's also still trying to find, or was still trying to find, a chief executive and a full-time chairman. So I think it's, as I said, it's a holding pattern. And I think Patrick Stewart comes to the club with quite an impressive, formidable CV. I would imagine that he's already preparing himself for having to make some big decisions from the minute one in the job.
Could be a big audition on Wednesday night for the man in the away dugout. What do you think?
Well, would it surprise you? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. Derek McInnes has proven himself over the course so many times, tactically really astute. Kilmarnock aren't firing this season, but they're still capable of big performances. He'll get his tactics spot on, and it would be no surprise if he was to get a result, whether that's a draw or a win. You look at this Rangers side, and you can't be confident with them beating anybody. But if you're up against a guy like Derek McInnes, who, as I said, how many times does he have to prove that when it comes down to sorting out a strategy and a tactical formation for these matches, he's an expert at it. I think he'll give Clement a very, very difficult time.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, it's still not going to matter, because it might matter for Derek McInnes, because there's another tick in the box there and a reminder to everybody of what an astute guy he is. But as I said, Rangers won't pull the trigger on Clement now ahead of the cup final. It's going to have to be a suck it and see scenario all the way to Hampden, and then after that, I would imagine that decisions will need to be made. By the way, Clement could win the cup final, and everybody thinks he's the top man again, and they stick with him. But again, that's just delaying the inevitable. Even if, and it would be a freakish result now. And when have you ever said that about going into an Old Firm Cup final? That if one of these sides win, it'll be a freak result. But that's exactly what it's starting to look like.
Before we move on and talk about Celtic and yesterday's Premiership games, you'll see along the bottom of your screen, Hearts 0, Aberdeen 0, the Premiership game that's going on at the minute at Tynecastle. Still all square. We will keep you up to date with any goals and major events as they unfold. But Keith, we've mentioned Celtic a couple of times already. You kind of took the, basically took the talking point here. Robert S. saying 6 changes yesterday, 4 of them scored. Seamless transition to the first 11. Very, very worrying for the bottom 11 Diddy teams. McCowan as well, getting a lot of praise in the comment section. McCowan is some player, hopefully a Scotland cap soon. And Jake here saying the kid is a player living his childhood dream, playing for the club he loves. It's brilliant to see. I mean, it was pretty remarkable. I mean, I know it's Ross County at home. You'd expect Celtic to win, but I thought it was a real show of force yesterday.
Yeah, and I tell you, the biggest compliment you can play Luke McCowan right now is that genuinely he's got as big a shout as Arnie Engels for getting into Celtic's strongest 11. Yeah. Whatever Celtic's strongest 11 might be right now, and there's so many options. This is exactly, as I said, what Brendan Rodgers had in his mind's eye when he was, urging the board to provide him with more quality. But if you were to pick your strongest Celtic midfield 3 right now, I'd probably go Callum McGregor, Hatate, and then it's one from Engels, Paulo Bernardo, or Luke McCowan. And Luke McCowan would have probably been considered a guy that was there to make up numbers a little bit when he first signed. But now I think each of them would has their own claim to that third place in midfield. And every time you see McCowan play, he enhances his own credentials every time. He looks like he fits, the Celtic shirt fits him. And he probably looks more comfortable in it right now than Engels, an £11 million Belgian. So, I think what he's doing just now speaks for itself. but great options to have, and it gives the manager this ability to make these changes, knowing full well, and he's doing it in full confidence that there's not going to be a drop off in quality because the quality's in, and the energy levels are higher because he can make 6 changes without skipping a beat. Really, really, really strong position. But you have to. Brendan Rodgers has taken a bit of criticism over the period in his second stint. I think the fans are now starting to see Brendan Rodgers 2.0 might be an improvement on the first time round. That's the direction Celtic are heading right now.
You mentioned earlier in the season you could still see Celtic breaking through the 100 points barrier.
I said that before the ball was kicked this season, didn't I?
Yep. You still fancy it?
Well, why would I not? I mean,
exactly.
If you extrapolate the points gained over this period, you're well into the hundreds now. I mean, they're not going to maintain this, or probably maybe they will. But yeah, I think 100 points is an achievable target for Celtic. I think it has been all season. I know that Brendan Rodgers gives his players sets of targets before the season begins, and I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if that was one of them for this season. And who knows? Maybe he's also looking at, can they get through the season once again without a single defeat on a domestic defeat on the card? You
wouldn't bet against it, would you?
No, you can't. How could you? I mean, what's that now? How many games into the league season are we?
13, I think.
13, 12 wins and a draw.
Yep. Speaks for itself. The next game that Celtic play is, of course, Wednesday night, and it's a mouth-watering one, away at Aberdeen at Pittodrie. And just going back to the team, Keith, I mean, the midfield three, who would you go for on Wednesday night? I mean, there's Paulo Bernardo as well, who was the one that was really knocking at the door, but now McCowan's really laid a stake.
Yeah, I think it's a 50-50 call between the two of them.
So Engels definitely not starting?
Well, again, that's the luxury of options that he's got. And I think you won't want to dent Engels' confidence too much, because I think this is experiencing I wouldn't say a difficult period, but it's maybe not going just as well for Engels as the player himself would have hoped. But he's a young boy and he's finding his feet.
Aye.
But at this point, yeah, I think I'd be inclined to go with either Paulo Bernardo or Luke McCowan. And whichever one you put in, you know what standards you're going to get. So it's a really comfortable place for Celtic to be in, which is better than for me right now, Daniel. I have to tell you, I had a week off, and I think I've managed to pick up this weird virus which makes you dizzy all the time.
Aye.
It's like I'm discombobulated. So I thought I'd better let you know that, because if I fall over and faint, just collapse in the next 10 minutes or so, you're on your own, son.
Listen, I'm sure there's nobody watching, Keith, that would be wishing for that. But look, if it does happen, just think of the YouTube, views. That'll make you feel better. We'll talk more about Celtic and Aberdeen, or Aberdeen Celtic, in the coming days, obviously. But the rest of the Premiership, we should maybe touch on from yesterday. Massive, humongous win for Hibs. Absolutely giant win. I mean, when you were off, Keith, I fully believe or think that had Aberdeen held on to that 3-2 win, that was it for David Gray. I really do think that.
It was, again, game-by-game basis, isn't it? And he's not out of the woods yet, unfortunately for him. But we did have, I think it was Craig Swan said a few weeks ago, he hopes, and I think I agreed with him at the time, you hope that Hibs do stick by him, just don't panic, just give him up until Christmas time. And, fair play to them. It would have been very easy to make a quick decision on it, because these are dangerous times for Hibs. But as I said, he's not out of the woods yet. But the last two performances show the fans and the board, more importantly, that the players are still prepared to go to the well for the manager. And while you've still got that, and that the players are putting their shoulder to the wheel, it gives you a fighting chance. And David Gray's given himself a fighting chance now. And good luck to him, because as we keep saying on this show, we need our bigger clubs to be punching their weight, and Hibs have been the absolute opposite of that this season. It has been dreadful, but he's a young manager. There are just signs of green shoots of recovery, and you keep your fingers crossed for him, because he's going to need all the luck he can get over the next week. He's got some bad fixtures coming up as well, so it's not going to get any easier.
Celtic Park is next for him, so it doesn't get any easier for him. But I think it was. I agree with you, and I know it's supposed to stay neutral, but I really hope that Hibs and David Gray, put a run together. And it could as well. I mean, we're watching the Hearts game at the minute. It puts the baton down to Hearts bottom the league starting today. I mean, that, I know I've said that a few times, but that just seems obscene.
It's pathetic.
It's mad.
It's pathetic. From the two of them, neither can be absolved of blame. They're doing this to themselves, and it's just not good enough. It's nowhere near good enough, and it's nowhere near a proper return for the money that they're spending on their squads either. So yeah, David Gray, look, young guy, because of this romantic relationship that he's got with the club, you just hope it does turn around. You hope that he doesn't have to sort of leave the position, Oxford off the premises. That'd be unbecoming.
Yeah.
After all the years of service he's given to Hibs, but he'll know as well that he needed a quick, drastic upturn in both results and performances. This could be the start of something, but I keep saying it. He's not out of the woods. There's some choppy water still ahead.
Keith, what did you make of the thing that happened on Thursday night with Hearts away to Cercle Bruges? The stick that Lauren Shankland took. I mean, personally, I thought when he missed that penalty and he was taking dogs abuse, I thought that was outrageous from Hearts fans. Thought it was really, really poor. I
feel for him because you can tell the effort. If Hearts fans are pointing an accusatory finger at Lauren Shankland, accusing him of not putting in the effort, well, they're miles off. The effort's there. You saw how much it hurt him when he missed the penalty. He's hurting. He's carrying this, and you feel for him because he's been so prolific over the last 2 years that his numbers are now expected. They're expected of him, and he's struggling. I don't think he's in a particularly happy place. I think there was a problem with the club over the summer. I think that probably Lawrence Shankland and his camp probably anticipated that there might be a move for them. Which obviously didn't materialise. He looks like a guy who's carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders, doesn't he? I don't think he was particularly enamoured with the contract offer that was given by Hearts. Has that caused a further problem? It just looks as if it's all heading towards a kind of an unhappy ending, which is such a shame because he's been phenomenal. He's a phenomenal striker at Hearts over the last 2-3 years.
And they wouldn't even be in the Conference League without him. And then it's just a lot of nonsense. I felt really bad for him the other night.
But there is that doesn't mean it's not valid to be having a debate over whether or not he should be starting every week for Hearts.
Of course, I
think he still offers a lot in terms of his link-up and his all-round play. Gets about the pitch. He's never been the quickest, but he knows how to drop into spaces and bring teammates into play, and that's really important. But the great thing about Lon Shankland was always his goals, and that's a now that's gone missing, dried up. There is a debate to be had about should he be a Celtic starter. I bet you in about 10 minutes' time he pops one into the back of the net. You tell me it's 1-0 and Lawrence Shankland's off and running, but let's see. Aye.
No, I definitely think there's an argument for him to be taken out of the team. I just thought the abuse he took was just nonsense. But
I think there's an element of that, and probably I'm not going to say I'm to blame, but I think all the talk of are Rangers going to go for Lawrence Shankland, and Rangers were having serious discussions behind the scenes about it before they decided not to do it. But I think there was an awareness, as I said, with Lawrence Shankland in his camp that there might be something there. And I think the Hearts fans, very unfairly, are looking at it and maybe saying, does this guy even want to be here anymore? Is his kind of head halfway across the M8? Which, by the way, there's absolutely no certainty that deal will ever happen now because, Rangers have already got strikers that don't score goals. If they went for Lon Shankland at a time when Lon Shankland's experiencing a real drought, then that might prove to be a hard sell to their own supporters. I'm sure that in time Lon Shankland would win them all over. Maybe needs a change of scenery now to get back up and running in terms of his goal scoring. But, you know, has that factored into the way that Hearts fans are feeling about him? You know, you'd have thought that Lon Shankland's got enough credit in the bank with these guys, but you wonder if is there a bit of resentment there because this continual link with Rangers won't go away, and has he had his head turned? Is his heart still in it? If they feel like that, then that might, you know, might mean that they're less inclined to stand by him when he's going through a difficult time.
Mm-hmm. And just on that game at Tynecastle, it's still Hearts 0, Aberdeen 0. Looks like quite a bad injury for Stephen Kingsley. He's been taken off on a stretcher. Craig Halkett coming on to replace him, but still goalless. And on that note, Keith, I think that brings us to the end of Sunday's Hotline Live, brought to you by Record Sport. Thank you very much for sending in all of your comments and for getting involved. And thank you to Andy Newport at McDermott Park as well. And Keith,
right. I'm off to keep over.
It's great to have you back. I was lost there for a few days.
Yeah, I'd love to tell you that it's great to be back, but honestly, I'm ready to keel over. The ambulance and speed dial here.
You go away and get your Calpol. We'll be back to do it all again tomorrow at 6 p.m. Thanks for watching.